What's up guys, we're back with another episode of Subjectively Speaking, the show where we discuss character design through a subjective lens. This show is all about opinion, so please be sure to leave your thoughts on the video down below in the comments and start a conversation. While you're there, please be sure to like the video, and if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I also want to give a quick shout out to our partner Inc Gaming. If you haven't heard of them yet, they make custom gaming merch designed by independent artists such as myself, and a portion of all the sales goes to the artist who designed it. Use the link in the description and the code subjectively10 at checkout for a 10% discount on your purchase. And that's about it. It's time to move on to the video. A few months ago, I did a video on the game series Subnautica and how their character design and art direction created this vivid feeling of immersion for the player. Specifically, I spoke about the creatures in the game, and I used specific examples to exemplify important elements of design. Since the video, I've had a few people ask me to elaborate further on creature design, and honestly, I am more than happy to oblige. Since before I could talk, creatures, both imaginary and real, have captured my attention and stimulated my imagination. Fish, and all things that live below the waves, have been particularly fascinating to me. My mom has these stories of when I was very, very young, staring fixated at the large clear wall of an aquarium and just pointing, and I would say nothing except for the occasional peesh, which was how I said fish when I was 3 years old. To this day, I still draw much of the inspiration for my work from the strange creatures that we share our planet with. And while there are a few things cooler than lobsters and alligators, occasionally I'll use what I know about their anatomy and behavior to create something entirely new, either based in fantasy or as if they were a real living species. And therein lies the true beauty of creature design. I'm going to segue into this next bit with a little story that just happened a few days ago. As some of you may know, it's #Merman, an annual tradition where artists on social media challenge themselves to design as many different, or similar, mermaids and mermen as they can. And while Ailish, of course, holds the claim to the title of mermaid enthusiasm within our group, I still wanted to give it a try this year, and so over the past week or so I whipped up a few mermaids based around a few aquatic creatures of my fancy. One of them was based off of a crocodile. Not any species in particular, just a scaly aquatic reptile with sharp teeth and a long tail. Now, while I used reference to blend the anatomy of both croc and human into one creature, not once while I was designing this thing did I consider the feasibility of it as a real animal. The laws of nature didn't control me, I was making a mermaid. Who needs to follow the rules? But interestingly enough, when I posted it to Instagram, I got a comment from someone asking in detail about the nature of my mermaid's hair. What was it composed of? From where does it grow? And why would an aquatic reptile ever need hair? Honestly, valid questions. Because you see, for some people, creature design can be taken quite literally, and the more you incorporate heavy references into your design, the more people will expect of it in terms of a functioning living creature. This is by no means a bad thing, but it may also prove to meet you with some frustration if you're not prepared for it. And so, I ask you to recall my earlier video about character design, and if you remember what the most important step in designing a character is. Anyone? No one? Before you draw anything, you must first determine the intent of your design and how you want your audience to interpret it. Let's take a look at a few famous creatures and see how the intent of the artist who created them shows through into their final design. I used xenomorphs as an example in a previous video, and I'm going to use them again. Xenomorphs are amazingly well-designed creatures that serve their purpose in their story in a way that's so successful, it's kind of set a standard in creature design that's still used to this day. Alien, if you haven't seen it yet, is a sci-fi thriller set in deep space where no one can hear you scream. It's a story about how fear impacts our choices, and what otherwise dormant sides of human nature will start to emerge under the most dire of situations. The creatures that represent these themes were designed by H.R. Geiger, a Swiss artist with a penchant for A Swiss artist with a penchant for nightmarish surrealism. Let's give that one more try. A Swiss artist with a penchant for nightmarish surreal. Oh my god, that is so hard to say. A Swiss artist with a penchant for nightmarish surrealism. Oh my god, that was so hard to say. When designing his aliens, Geiger incorporated subtle imagery with intent to evoke fear in the audience's deepest subconsciousness, even fears manifesting in such traits as fragile masculinity. See my Subnautica video for more on that. One of the easiest ways to create fear is to embrace ambiguity, implying one thing or another without clearly revealing anything tangible. From one angle, xenomorphs may appear human, They have legs, arms, hands, fingers, and even toes. Their chest and torso resemble a long, decaying human corpse, with protrusions that could be interpreted as a rib cage encircling their bodies. Even their faces draw elements from human anatomy, however twisted and menacing they may be. You see, humans react most strongly to other humans, or things that look like other humans, and the emotions that we translate to one another through physical gestures. Exaggeration of these gestures evokes a higher level of emotional response from an audience, as does an absence of recognizable features. A human face without eyes robs us of one of our most powerful tools of communication, and without them, a face kind of becomes impossible to read, and the intent of the beast whose face it belongs to can only be interpreted by the mouth, and, oh, well, that mouth certainly tells a story. All of these factors serve a direct purpose, feeding into the intent of the writers and the director of the film. And since this movie takes place in a real-world setting, remember step 2? The creatures must be believable enough in terms of size, texture, and anatomy that they don't look fake next to real actors, even despite the fact that the film was made in the 70s. Now, let's look at another creature. And we're going to take a pretty big leap here, so hold on to your seats.
James P. Sullivan.
I mean, you didn't think we could talk about monsters without mentioning Monsters, Inc., did you? No, but in all seriousness, as different of a movie as this is from Alien, it's still fantastically well made, and honestly, just a damn good movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm shocked. But also, see it. Come on. It's so good.
Of course, I was the ball, but I was the ball.
Anyway, Sully 2 was designed with intent, and he wasn't created overnight. He, like any other Pixar character that we know and love today, went through a ton of changes before they got him right. This seems obvious, but let's talk briefly about the differences in his design compared to the Xenomorph. What stands out the most? Is it A, his colors, B, his textures, C, his anatomy, or D, his expression? If you picked all of the above... Oh, I didn't make that an answer. Okay, well, it's all of the above. Sully is the protagonist of a movie about friendship, trust, and learning to love someone despite what you think you might know about them. Sound different from Alien? Yeah, almost entirely. Even the audience is completely different from Alien, but I'm not sure what a rated R Monsters, Inc. might look like. However, a lot of what we talked about with the designs of the Xenomorph can be applied here too. Sully's anatomy is similar to that of a human. He stands up straight, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that's very human too. It's got a recognizable chin, nose, mouth, lips, eyes, and even eyebrows. We can see in great detail all of the emotions that he expresses. And even when he's at his scariest, the presence of these features is far more comforting than it would be if he was designed with the intent to actually evoke fear. In fact, he looks the way that some young children might describe their father. Big, hairy, and sometimes scary, but always lovable and caring. I actually didn't mean for that to rhyme, but there you go. He may have claws and horns, but they seem almost superfluous in contrast to his bright blue fur, the texture of which kind of gives the impression of a freshly washed blanket. His monstrous adornments are not without purpose, however, for in scenes where he must appear more bestial and intimidating, they add to his silhouette sharp edges and points, reminding the audience that he is indeed the top scarer on the floor. So that's Sully. These 2 examples can kind of be used to set something like a spectrum of creature design. Both represent intent, but where on one side we see adult themes of fear, violence, and discomfort, the other side contains visual representations of trust and friendship. To these themes we can attribute visual keys such as lack of eyes to represent emotionlessness, soft fur to symbolize comfort, and sharp teeth, revealing a more deadly side, whether the bearers would actually use them to bring harm or not. Hundreds of thousands of characters fall in between these 2 extremes on the spectrum, and like all things, these conventions can be broken or reappropriated in order to, once again, fit the theme of the story. Background creatures too, things that might not appear at first to hold any thematic significance, are also used to convey a theme. One of my favorite movies, the 2005 Peter Jackson remake of King Kong, is packed to the gills with terrifying beasties, all of which are designed with a detailed knowledge of animal anatomy. They fit right into a scene with human actors, but they all serve a purpose as a collective theme representing the fear of the unknown and the terrors and beauty of discovery. Or consider the creatures in James Cameron's iconic Avatar. In a movie with themes of appreciating nature for both its beauty and its might, the Ikran are a perfect visual representation of how one's perspective can shift depending on how they choose to respond to their fear. Even the simplest of creature designs still serve an important purpose. A Goomba, nothing more than a mushroom with eyes, a mouth, and some feet, right? But they're designed to be stomped on. Their look invites the player to smash down on their heads with the same satisfaction as pushing a big red button. And they do their job so well, they've become an icon in what is arguably the most popular game series of all time. I could go on and on and on. I mean on and on and on, guys. There's an ogre from Monster Hunter, Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, Knifehead from Pacific Rim, Pikachu, Godzilla, Blue Eyes, those things from A Quiet Place. They're all designed with intent. And while some reference anatomy to convey a sense of realism, others have no need to be bothered by what could or couldn't exist in nature. So the next time you design your creatures, be it for fun or for a story, keep in mind all that we've discussed. Reference anywhere you can, even if you want to make something as cartoony as Sully. You'll still need to know how fur works to give him that believable texture. And keep in mind the role that you want this creature to play, even if anatomical feasibility is your #1 priority. If you must limit yourself to designs that would be acceptable to the rules of physics and the laws of nature, use what you know about our world to give your beast the same mystery and beauty of our home planet and the creatures that live here. There are no limits to creature design, no rules made that can't be broken, and the only thing keeping you from creating the next iconic beast of our time is the limit of your own imagination. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got something useful out of all of this. If you did, I ask again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. We upload new videos every Thursday and Sunday, so if you like this, please be sure to check out some more. Some videos are like this, others are completely different, but in all videos we talk about character design, so if that's your shtick, stick around. We got plenty more coming. Alright, guys, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next week.
I wasn't scared. I was the ball.
11, 10, Jordan.
No,
Jordan,
no, no.